Hello everyone, my name is Loko and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Dorado. Not a very popular map number 1 type of map. I feel like everybody's always vetoing this. Spawning right here in the bottom right hand corner, playing with the blue Terran SCVs, joined by the Rebellion icon on the main command center. Of course, this can only ever be ByuN. His opponent down in the bottom left with the red Zerg pieces, he goes by the name of Solar. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of Dorado as of late. Let me have a quick little look at the win-loss ratios of this particular matchup at the tournament level. Because there was a good reason why everybody was vetoing this. If I'm not mistaken, it's a really good Terran map. Yeah. So actually, since this map was introduced, which was back in late October, there have only been 43 tournament games of Terran versus Zerg. That is not a whole lot. And Terran apparently has won 56% of them. Now, there is a good chance that as time goes by, the map is going to get a little bit better for Zerg. We've seen the same thing as well with other maps, like for example Dynasty in the previous map pool. Originally, that map was considered to be like an 80% win rate for Terran. Absolutely ridiculous. Everybody just vetoed it. Oh god. Here we go again. Everybody just vetoed it. But as time went on, people started figuring out how to play the map better and better and better. And near the end of the map pool, actually, Dark, for example, was winning the vast majority of his Terran versus Zergs. Now, of course, this is a game featuring ByuN, so we gotta have a little bit of a chit-chat. Very important. Normally, we don't have quite this much chit-chat, though. I wonder what they're talking about. Anyways, a Reaper start right here. Soon, the time for talking is in the past. Because believe it or not, pro gamers only have 2 hands. I know. Hard to micro when you have only 2. At the very least, when you also want to chat at the same time. Alright. Zerging speed is coming up. Drone already heading on over towards the 3rd base. Reaper doesn't know about that. ByuN saying, ha ha ha. That's all I can read. Any repeated character in Korean is laughing. That's basically all that I know. Drone in the meantime, though, has turned it to a 3rd base. I always like it when Zergs send that drone a little early. Just to try and hide it. Now, by the way, it is perfectly allowed while you're chatting away to snipe your opponent's Reaper if their hands are on the keyboard. There's no gentleman's agreement as far as gameplay goes. You can be a jerk. ByuN's APM is actually about 100 less than we normally see at this stage in the match. Mostly because he's chatting away. Alrighty, so let's see. Got ourselves a 1-1-1. We should see a tech lab here on the barracks. Hellion production should be underway. Right now. Yeah. Tech lab. And then we can go for the big switcheroo in a moment when the starport is done. Apparently he was busy though sniping a creep tumor at the front. So not a bad beginning here for ByuN. Keeping the Reaper around. Could also go for a Liberator if he really wants to. And it seems like that is indeed going to be the weapon of choice. Solar may just be flying this Overlord in just a moment. Normal scout timing is between 3:45 and 4 minutes. Sometimes ever so slightly later, where you accidentally forget it, I suppose, but that would allow him to figure out whether or not this is going to be a, like for example, a cloaked Banshee build or something along those lines. Seeing the lack of a tech lab on that starport is really all the information he truly needs. Most of the time, though, as a Zerg player, you will still have to get a Spore Crawler pretty much regardless, especially now that the Queen is a little bit more expensive. I would imagine Solar is going to be adding those on, no matter what. Yep, there's the OV Scout. He sees what he needs. Tries to go back out. He's going to be able to sustain himself for a little bit longer, but already the mineral fields are being mined out. So, it looks like ByuN is looking to expand in the direction of the opponent. This is one of the reasons why this map is really good, because you can take the 3rd base over here, and then you can take the planetary right over here. Technically, you shouldn't really be mining it from that site. I mean, technically, you're supposed to, quote-unquote, supposed to mine it from that site. Obviously, then you have access to the Vespian gas geyser, but Terran doesn't need that much gas. So, yeah, you can take the gases over here, you can take the main, the natural, if you really need more of it. The 4th base doesn't really need a Vespian gas geyser. And interestingly enough, I think I've pretty much always seen this map, actually. The gold base, that is. I've pretty much always seen it getting mined from the bottom. For both the Zerg, the Protoss, as well as the Terran pieces. Rarely do we actually see it on the supposedly correct side. I think this gas geyser is probably the most neglected gas geyser in any StarCraft map right now. Rarely does it get used. Hellions trying to mostly just settle for some, creep spread damage. This is not a great start for ByuN, to be honest. Like, yeah, he killed an Overlord and a creep tumor and all that, but this has been relatively slow. He's gonna add on a ton of additional barracks production. Most of the attacks that we see from Terrans go through the bottom of the map. And this is why I'm thinking maybe this map is something that Zergs can switch around on as far as win-loss ratios go, because it's one of those things that maybe you play on the map, right, and you're like, oh, okay, this is tough, this is garbage, I can't really play it, I guess I'll veto it in every tournament match. But when this map was first introduced, and in the majority of the ZVTs I've seen on this map, they always expand in this direction first. Solar instead decided to take the vertical expansions, and yeah, he's already taken the base in the far top left-hand corner too. Maybe he's going to be mining this section out. I think he's mostly just mining this out over here, though, in case there's like a siege tank attack from that area. We've seen some crazy siege tank pushes where if the Zerg doesn't actually mine this out, siege tanks behind the mineral wall, Marines on the other side, and you can dance over here in the natural expansion with siege tanks that are completely out of reach for the Zerg. This is a map that requires a bit of a specific approach. Alrighty, now 1-1 is just about to finish up for both sides. Bailing speed coming up right now certainly is not going to be available if ByuN decides to go for a move out right about right now. Queens are desperately trying to put down some creep spread. ByuN catching up as far as the economy goes, but not really achieving all too much. We have a second factory going up right now at the front. Armory is actually a little bit late, so he's not going to be able to go straight into the 2-2. Not super late, but still noticeably so. And because of the creep spread, I actually don't mind this here for Solar whatsoever. This should be quite defendable. The only thing that's hard for him here is the bailing speed, or the lack thereof. But I mean, he's got a lot of queens. He's got 61 Zerglings. I feel like the Zerglings alone are going to be more than enough. If he finishes bailing speed, which is about a half minute away, he's going to be fine. He could deny this base. He could cancel the base and go and take the expansion over here instead. Yeah, that's what he does. Uses the Zerglings right now for a counterattack. And this base is reasonably protected. Ooh, I like this actually. Reactor to complete the wall off for a second. Okay, decides to move it to the front. It was cool for this particular engagement, but maybe a little risky if later on there's going to be some roly-poly banelings blocking your escape path. Hydra then right now on the back of this. Fourth command center is indeed building over at the bottom of that golden wall. Attacks obviously with siege tanks are scary towards this side of the map, but likewise for Terran, lurker timing attacks are also very terrifying. Although this is mostly just going to be Hydraling Bane, it seems. We do have an infestation pit. Wouldn't mind seeing a hive. There it is. 2-2 very late. So yeah, this is one of those tricky things, man. When you forget your armory the first time around, or it's like delayed by a half minute, you kind of lose the upgrade flow. So ByuN could have fired up those upgrades like a minute earlier than he actually did. Previously, he was ahead in upgrades. Now he's behind. He was like 30 seconds ahead. Now he's like 30 seconds behind. Solar not making a mistake. And so far, ByuN is being stopped at pretty much every angle, other than the one right over here. But that wasn't an expansion that was mining yet, and Solar just decided to give up on it. I do like, though, that ByuN has decided to park his army out here. This is a pretty dangerous position. Not an easy one for Solar to break. He's desperately trying to spread creep. ByuN is using this now as a staging ground to launch his next attack. And maybe that one is going to be a little bit more successful. Hatchery now indeed also coming up on the quote-unquote wrong side of the mineral fields. 2-2 about to finish up right here for Solar. This is actually a great opportunity for him to fight. He obviously doesn't know about the delayed upgrades, but he could overwhelm this right now if he really wants to. He's going for a single Viper though. Lurker then coming up. Blinding Cloud would be amazing here for Solar. Couple of medevacs just chilling at the bottom of the map, occupying a pretty large chunk of Zerg. Okay, additional command centers coming up. 2-2 on the horizon right now for ByuN. ByuN starting to actually carve a bit of a path over here at the bottom too. I like this attack. Medevac drop is moving on over. Hatchery over there does get cancelled. Half of the Terran army is still parked, though, on the top section of the wall. And this is a little risky. He snipes the base, yes, but I wouldn't even mind like a full counterattack here from Solar. He didn't go planetary? ByuN decided to go orbital over here? That's honestly too greedy. I don't like that. That's way too much. I think a full-on Zergling counterattack here is pretty much impossible here for ByuN to hold. Very brave. I don't think it's necessary at all. Medevac drop over here gets cleaned up too. And that means that the siege tanks are indeed next. ByuN's been camping out on the map for a while. But I think the little camping trip is over. Yeah. Wasn't paying attention for about a split second and then immediately lost it. Barabon? Bit funky here. Everything just passes by. This hatchery is gonna get sniped again, I believe. Although I say that, Widow Mines? Yeah, no. It's gonna get cancelled. Widow Mines sometimes a bit dangerous. They have a tendency to deal friendly fire in those sorts of engagements. Lunge upgrade coming up. Medevac drop in the top left gets cleaned up. So ByuN has gobbled up essentially all the bases at the bottom of the map. He's now also making a move for the one at the 6 o'clock position. He's got his orbital commands coming up. He's got a good economy here. But Solar has the top of the map under his control. Ooh. Big engagement here off creep, actually. Solar chasing this all the way down. He did finish up the adrenal glands upgrade. But this is a pretty nice choke point. Finally, we do have a planetary. Not at the 4th, but at the 5th base location. Now, the more ByuN expands over here, the closer he's gonna get to all of the bases of Solar. Solar, though, he smashed his piggy bank, is going into 11 Lurkers right now, together with a Nidus Worm. And we have seen these Nidus Worms be extremely lethal lately. We've seen a lot of Overlord drops, a lot of Nidus Worm play. It's dangerous. As ByuN is branching deeper and deeper out on the map, he's also leaving the main base behind, right? Like a Lurker push from the main base right now is a very long way to defend as the Terran. Now, this medevac drop is lovely. In the meantime, though, we have a large Zergling counterattack, too. This is where the upgrades are, of course, researching. Ooh. Oh, oh, oh. Right click, right click. Somehow the base lives. In the meantime, there's also a medevac drop inside of the main base of the Zerg player. Depots did get blown up by the Banelings, but good defense there by ByuN. ByuN now making a transition finally towards Ghosts. He's been a little hesitant in that department, but now that he's going up against Lurkers, he really doesn't have another choice. Excellent dropping here by ByuN. Really liking it. Yeah, suddenly the Ghost Academy has been put out in full swing. We have a lot of ghosts. This scares me, man. Whenever we see these structures up against the wall like this, I'm always afraid that at some point we're gonna see like 4 ghosts stuck in a corner. I guess it's not possible, but ByuN probably has figured it out. This is a bit messy. Yeah, this drop gets cleaned up, and that's like actually 30 supply or so down the drain. Overseers do get sniped. Couple of ghosts here, a little overly ambitious. Expansion at the top of the map has been cleaned up. Medevac drop in the top left does actually go down, but wait, what? Hold up. No! He used energy? Huh? So... Sometimes pro gamers have 200 IQ, and sometimes it's a little bit less. Oh, he's trying to trap it. He's trapped the Zerg. He's trapped the Zerg. Solar is stuck on the wrong side of the wall. Okay, he can use a Nidus Worm to get out. ByuN is going to try and cover him up in that area too. I mean, he hasn't really used the Nidus Worm, but this entire Zerg army is stuck in a corner. Lucky for Solar, man. He made a Nidus network. That could have been so awkward. He hasn't used it offensively, but that could have been an absolute disaster. Okay. ByuN probably thinking here that he had his opponent caught. Yeah, he scans to confirm right now that indeed that army has disappeared. Solar in the meantime, though, grabbing some of those mineral lines back again at the top section of the wall. ByuN actually doesn't have that big of an economy. Like, yeah, he built a bunch of orbitals. He's got 8 of them in total. Starts up an additional 1 too. But his income is actually relatively low. Like, if you look at the map right now, ByuN's kind of stuck in his, like, starting quadrant. Solar, in the meantime, is already taking, like, 50% or so. Obviously, there's still a lot of bases remaining, and we're still relatively early. Although, this is one of those games, though, that can just be over. Like, one bad mistake, one missed engagement, and this is the type of stuff where suddenly the floodgates are open, and either the Terran is just pushing every base, or Zerg is just overwhelming everything. Now, this is the type of game, though, where ByuN is forced to take it a little bit slower, right? And he's been very good in that department. I actually love seeing ByuN like this. I've seen ByuN play some very passive games over the last couple of months. A much more active approach this time around, and I'm here for it. He does need to be careful, though. This is basically his entire army. Maybe about 2/3 or so of his army. That means that his bases at the bottom are very exposed. 2 orbital commands immediately fall. He gets a hatchery kill in the meantime on the other side of the map, but I actually wonder if this is a bit of an overextension right here by ByuN. Very ambitious. Only a single planetary that was previously set up over here. No planetary at the 4th base. Still blows my mind. I guess he's had some bad experiences with Lurkers. We go another command center right now? ByuN, what about some units? How about we make some units, man? Alright, well, instead we're gonna go for another Nidus Worm here. Solar has decided that this is an opportunity for him to maybe push his opponent to the limit. There's only so far you can run. Nidus Worm is gonna allow some of those Lurkers to quickly reinforce this as well. Finally, ByuN has decided to set his eyes on one of the bases north of the Golden Aura, but should be okay. This orbital command, or planetary. I mean, which one are we gonna go for? Neither? Okay, also an option. That's where actually that nanomuscular swell research, the lunge ability for the Hydra, is quite handy. Dude, how many command centers have we just seen die over the last couple of minutes? In the meantime, speaking of death, Banelings are rolling through. We've seen a lot of command centers, actually. It's 6 going down in total in this game. I think it was 1 that was at the bottom of the map, but all the others have died over the last minute or so. Another lunge. Solar trying to see if he can close the distance a little bit more quickly. Ghosts are starting to fall. In this sort of fight, ghosts are actually not that useful. They're great at sniping Lurkers, but in a straight-up engagement, that is not where they shine. And just like that, this game was looking like it was gonna run for 30 minutes, but just like that, Solar obtains the victory. Beautiful game number 1. I loved it. That was some very fast StarCraft. The guys were chit-chatting away in the early game and then decided to just power up. You know, it's a fast game when, as an observer, there's fights going on that you almost miss. Like, I'm looking at the mini-map, I'm trying to catch everything going on, but sometimes there's more drops going on than it's easy for me to catch as well. Obviously, when you're playing against it, or you're the one executing those attacks, it's very difficult to actually pull off. Now, interestingly enough, we go to another very large map. Maybe not... I actually think El Dorado is probably smaller than this one, although El Dorado does feel really big. What? ByuN was on Team Expert a long time ago, wasn't he? Why did we suddenly bring that up? I have no idea. Ah, that is a long time ago. When was that? Hold up, let me look it up real quick. 2016, yeah. So in 2016, and then also 2017, ByuN was part of Team Expert. Now I know what you're thinking. 2016, 2017, that's like 3 to 4 years ago, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, about that much. Yeah, sure. About 3 to 4 years, give or take. Totally. Anyways, Neon Violet Square, of course. The map with the bases in the corners. The nice little pocket expansions. Generally not something that Really, either of these two players, in my mind, is going to grab early. This is more or less like the... you know, like maybe you have a little bit of... maybe you have like a $50 bill hiding in your phone case or something like that, you know? Like, that's what this is. This is hiding in the corner. It's a nice little piggy bank when you really need the minerals. But it's only got a couple of mineral fields. It's got 4 of them in total, and it's just not that much income. But it's nice to have in the later stages of the game, especially if you're Terran, for example, and you're fond of making command centers. Well, you may as well put one of them over there. Factory coming up. We do see a reactor. So this has been a scoutless opener here for ByuN. I mean, to be fair, when you're busy microing your Reaper, it really cuts into the amount of work or the amount of chatting you can really do here. So, I get it. This map actually is very pretty. This is one of my favorite works of art. Emporio Ormoni. Alan's karaoke bar. Long John, all you can eat. Yeah. Just like back in college. Anyways, third hatchery coming up. Yeah, neither of these two players is particularly feisty in the early game. I mean, we have seen ByuN, specifically against that build that Dark has been playing with the very quick triple hatch, completely gasless. We have seen ByuN once more go for proxy barracks on the other side of the map. It's something he likes to mix in, but against the most conventional approach, as ByuN does actually take the pocket base. Against the most conventional approach, usually ByuN just plays a very normal start as well. Nice to see Solar performing so well, by the way. I feel like I haven't seen Solar playing as much as of late. But that previous game was a very clear example of a game where you're playing, right? Like, that's the type of game that you need to be practicing for. You need to be fast, you need to be on top of everything. It is not easily done. Solar actually scouts the base. I never know what these are. These are like glass walkways or something. In between the different buildings on Neon Violet Square, there's all of these things. Oh, this one just... I never followed it all the way through. For some reason, it ends right over here in the middle of nowhere. Alright, well. The Overlord is gonna go down. Maybe it's for the metro? Yeah, maybe it's for some sort of public transport? I don't know. Futuristic public transport, to say the least. It is cool. I like the look of this map. I'm not sure about the layout of the map so much, but it is pretty cool. Once more, though, a very normal beginning. So, one of the things that went wrong for ByuN in the previous game was the timing of the armory. A bit messy. Pretty much unnecessary, too. You just need to build the armory at a reasonable time. It's not rocket science, but it's one of those things that you can very easily slip up on. I never like seeing it at the pro level, though. When the armory is late, like especially these days, the armory used to be quite expensive, but years ago it was made 50 gas cheaper. I don't think you really have a good reason not to be building the armory at a reasonable time. It's one of those things where I would much rather see it being built early than being built late. You know, it's like being supply blocked. I'd much rather have an extra supply depot or two or an extra overlord or two just to be oversupply rather than being undersupply, because it just slows everything down so much. Alright, here's the 1-1 upgrades coming up for Solar. Very similar setup as what we had in the previous game. Additional barracks now coming. Looks like ByuN already hit a bit of a supply block, but he is going to be able to solve that pretty easily at the cost of a mule. Hellions dancing at the front, but they're gonna get pushed away. Okay. We already have Stimpec. Combat Shields is gonna come up on the back of this. And this is once more both players just sort of with an agreement to play mid-game instead. No quick Hellbat all in. No cheeky aggression here from the Zerg player. I mean, a lot of it is just the size of the map. It just takes ages to get across. Even with very fast-moving units. In general, in the early game, it's up to the Terran player to deal some sort of damage. And ByuN is basically saying, yo, if we're going to be playing this map, I'll just try and play a big macro game for this side instead. And just try to build up my economy. Hard to really go for a timing push here. There's the armory. At a good time, this time around. Bailing speed, researching now. Hydra then on the back of this. We'll probably see an infestation pit in just a moment to go into a hive. But here we go. This is going to be the first big attack in this game. A lot of good creep spread though. I'm actually really liking the creep here for Solar, who's already gobbling up as much as he can. This base over here is technically a little risky, and again, this is a push before bailing speed is done. Oh, well, I mean, if you're gonna walk onto the creep, yeah, the creep spread here is absolutely critical. I mean, this is not the cleanest fight, though. I feel like you only really needed to attack move there. Somehow he got a little overly ambitious, and this was also right before upgrades actually finished. ByuN got a bit lucky, but I don't think he's got the stuff to really cripple the Zerg here. Nah, this hatchery is going to stay around. No! ByuN, stop it! Ah. ByuN goes for the +2 armor first again. Now, this is a ByuN move and a half. ByuN has been doing this for years. Once upon a time, he taught himself that he needed to get that hotkey first. This upgrade is the same cost as that upgrade, and it's just the less important one. You should always go attack upgrade for infantry units first. There is zero reason to go armor first. ByuN, when he has limited resources, I guess it's just the way he like taps his control groups. Right? Like you select both of the engineering base and then you play a little bit of hotkey piano. Anyways, he just didn't have the money for the other upgrade. He should reverse his hotkey piano. Now sniping the spawning pool here with this drop is awesome. Push towards the gold base is going on. Bailing is not gonna survive that, but neither is the spawning pool. And the spawning pool loss is actually a big one. Solar needs to remake a spawning pool. This is one of those things that you can kind of forget on. Yeah, now he tried building Zerglings, or a Spore Crawler, or a Spine Crawler, or a Queen, or a Lair, or Adrenal Glands. I mean, probably a Zergling. And he realized that the spawning pool wasn't actually done. Spawning pool actually feels like it takes forever when you're waiting for it. This is one of those structures that is actually surprisingly slow. You're so used to building it in the very early game. You don't have to rebuild it very frequently. It actually takes a long while. I don't think ByuN is really going to be able to capitalize on this, though, because this isn't Massling. There's also Hydras in the mix, and while he is going to be forced to go more Hydra heavy than he wanted to, it's fine. Although I say that. Yeah, maybe the gold base is going to get punished for it. Every Zergling has been morphed into a Bane. Hydra Bane it is for now. Spawning pool 2.0 though is done. And that means that Zerglings are back on the menu. This drop is not going to achieve much. Medevac. Oh, sleeping on the job. Go home, ByuN. ByuN really wants to kill the hatch, and he does get the hatch here eventually. But that was expensive. In the meantime, there was already another hatchery built in the bottom right. Hive coming up right now. Together with a Lurker then. ByuN really needs to make a Ghost Academy a little earlier. In the previous game, he didn't make the Ghost Academy until like he had 6 bases up and going or whatever. General rule of thumb is to build the Ghost Academy when Terran's on 4 bases. That's the normal time. ByuN, oh, going armor upgrade first again. Ay, ay, ay. This is the type of stuff, man. When you cover up the player usernames, I will still be able to tell that this is ByuN 100% of the time. I mean, besides the YOLO drops. The +1 and the +2 are like the armor priority is a clear giveaway. Plus the lack of a Ghost Academy. He's in a phenomenal spot right now. He's got the money for it. There's zero reason to not have a Ghost Academy here. One of the problems he can run into is that he's gonna get caught off guard against like 24 Lurkers all of a sudden. Maybe a little excessive. I guess he's seen the timing of the hive. So he's thinking I don't really need it. But also you're going to need it before too long anyways. You're not really in a terrible spot if you have a bunch of ghosts against even Ling Bane. Not great, but it's by no means terrible, and these drops are a little messy. Vipers right now coming up. Hatchery at the front goes down though. Very ambitious replacement here by Solar. Marines are gonna get killed. Apparently the hatchery manages to stay alive. I think you really should take the gases over in the corner. That's one of the advantages of this base. Usually the only real bottleneck you have when you are playing Lurkers. Although already, yep, we have enough gas. He smashed his little piggy bank to get the Lurkers going. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel here. If you're a Zerg player in this situation, it kind of feels sometimes like you're getting outpaced a bit. Like you take a lot of damage and Terran is everywhere. Lurkers can really stop Terran dead in their tracks. Now, we have a YOLO drop once more, headed towards the main base. Vipers do have parasitic bombs, I think? No, not enough energy. We should really see the Marines try to gun those down, but not quite fast enough. Lurkers at the front, though? I mean, you can try and micro against it, sure. Ghost Academy was built, so ghosts are going to be available. He did remember about the +3 attacks. But this is a real opportunity for Solar to stabilize. Because look, now we're in this spot, right? You have no ghosts. What do? This is that awkward position for Terran, where you're winning, and the Lurkers are out, so now you can't push anymore. Well, you can go for a drop like this. Maybe you can get lucky. But I feel like this is not the type of game that you need to win with a dice roll. Obviously, the Lurkers can't be everywhere, though. Well, at this point, there's actually quite a few of them, so maybe they can be everywhere. Just need to split them up. Solar still has a good amount of supply. And even though he did lose a little bit of economy, he lost a bunch of mineral lines. He still has all the drones. Plus, I mean, he lost the creep spread, yes, but at this stage in the game, you can rebuild it quite quickly. Okay. So that is the time in the game where ByuN needs to take a different approach, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's building command centers right now. We have a lot of them coming up. New planetary fortress is being acquired. Nidus network here coming up. Ooh, bunch of bios. Yeah, a bunch of bio units here. A little overly ambitious up on the high ground. I don't love this late game too much here from ByuN so far. I mean, I think he was planning on winning in the mid game, and now he's forced to transition. But it really does take the wind out of his sails a little bit. Now, Fusion Core coming up together with a second starport. So, Liberator Ghost is going to be the weapon of choice. Nice recovery here so far, though, by Solar. I'm not loving this position, but it's not terrible. Good Widowmine hit. Yeah, Solar's income is actually... It kind of looks like, if you look at the minimap, it kind of feels like Zerg shouldn't have that much money. Good EMP. But I think Solar is getting enough income here to really justify most of this. Couple of snipes going down. +3, +2 on the horizon as well. Here's the Liberators. Really? We're gonna go for the Medevac upgrade over the Liberator ranged upgrade. Okay. Is this the new ByuN move? Rather than going armor first, we're going for, I mean, it's double energy regen for the Medevacs. It's pretty good. A lot of Terran units actually dying here, but it looks like even off creep, Solar is still to be respected. We have a lot of orbitals here. ByuN actually also at 87 workers. That's a lot of SCVs. That's why his army looks relatively small. Nidus is gonna get knocked down. Solar retaking another base down at the bottom. Okay. Yeah, impressive recovery here from Solar. He was in a terrible position not too long ago. Now he's actually sort of okay. I'm still not in love with his position, but I don't think this is that garbage anymore. He's got Hydra Lurker Viper. He's got a lot of Ling Bane. He's got solid upgrades. Still though, this is a Terran player who is about to approach their ultimate late game force. We're going for all the fancy upgrades. High-sec auto-tracking. Oh, ghost! Ooh, okay, he lost like, what, 6 ghosts there? I can't count. Especially not above 5, because I run out of fingers. At least on one hand. Oh, this surround is actually super good by Solar, who's starting to abduct these units, and suddenly the floodgates have been opened. Yeah, there you are, sitting pretty with 1 million orbital commands. No army, though. ByuN forced to retreat. He dropped 50 supply in a matter of seconds. Cost efficiency-wise, he's actually lost more stuff here than the Zerg. Yeah. Lurkers from the high ground trying to see if they can kill the planetary. I don't think Solar really needs to commit to that. He sees the scan wearing off. He's like, yo, don't mind if I do. Alright, high-sec auto-tracking is done. Building armor coming up. Would have been nice to have a little bit ago. Before those lurkers ran on over in this direction. Ghosts are going to be able to win this engagement eventually, but the entirety of the Zerg army has cycled up north. They took the long way around. Now this planetary is next. This orbital command and all the SCVs are already gone. I mean, the orbital command is up in the air. Planetary fortress is going to drop. ByuN's supply just went down to nothing. And this is what I've been talking about in some of the games. Like, he gets very carried away making command centers. Now ByuN is sitting at 130 supply. And with what, 11 command centers? He's got like 5,000 resources worth of command center. But no army and no money in the bank. I think this is one of those setups where, like, theoretically it's the perfect play, but realistically it also means that you can't mess up. And when you take one bad engagement, you lose a bunch of ghosts. Suddenly, Solar is very solid. Now, you do have a ton of mules available. Solar is going to try and strike again from the bottom of the Terran's bases. He's been going back and forth and back and forth. Lurkers coming up. Orbital command is forced to lift off again. That means the mules are not as useful as they could have been. Maybe knocking down these rocks would be a good play here for Solar. Alright. +3/+3. Finishing up right now as well for the Zerg. Burrow coming up. Nidus worms all over. Oh, great recovery here by Solar. I think that's like the 4th time I've said that, but very impressive stuff. Lingbane rolling through. This is buying an awful lot of time, though, for the rest of the Zerg army to destroy the Terran's economy. Another 30+ SCVs end up going down. The rest of the bio army gets surrounded. Wow. Solar, he wins the series 2-0 in spectacular fashion. Very well done. GG.